Hey everyone, it's Kane. This week we were supposed to watch Coraline, as I mentioned in the last episode, but unfortunately it was no longer streaming anywhere, and we don't have the means to really rent it right now, so this week we went ahead and put out one of our backup episodes. This is A Night at the Roxbury. We have changed a few things since then, so if you notice some differences, that's what this is, and we will be back with the same shtick next week. Thanks everybody, bye. Yeah, I heard the Roxbury had to fire the resident DJ. Apparently, he just wasn't up to scratch. Hey, shh. Welcome back.
Sorry. I'm ready now. I apologize. Let's do it.
You killed all the momentum.
I know.
Welcome back.
Start over. You're bad.
Welcome back to Not Another Needless Sequel, where we watch movies and propose unnecessary prequels, sequels, reboots, and remakes. My name is Kane. This is Kelsey. She's my wife.
Did you just grab my ass?
No. Should I? Should I want to?
I just thought you grabbed my ass.
I knew you were going to use that line.
It was that one, or do you know what I heard the first time I met you?
I'm just going to interrupt you there and say, what's the story of 1998's A Night at the Roxbury?
The Butabi brothers think that they're super cool and have ideas and dreams to open their own nightclub. And it's about their pathway to success, much to their father's dismay.
And this movie is, if you don't know, based on a SNL skit. And boy, does it show that it was based on an SNL skit.
You know, I didn't know that, but that explains so much.
Well, you know, several movies that came out around that time were based on this kind of thing. Like, you know...
What year was this? 98?
Yes, it was 98. But back then, they made a lot of movies based on little tiny bits of sketches or just characters. So this...
Well, that makes sense, because Will Ferrell was on SNL, right?
Yes. So this was when Chris Kattan and Will Ferrell on SNL. And in the skit they actually are with Jim Carrey. It's three of them. And they're all doing the same head bobbing thing. And I tried to look up, like, a video of the skit. And just, I guess because it's older, like, I couldn't find a decent video. Maybe I could have found, like, the episode. I don't know if it was streaming somewhere. But, man, it was hard to tell. But yeah. I barely watched it because of the quality.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Same with the movie. Just kidding.
So it starts off with Doug and Steve. They're in the car doing the classic dance. You've probably seen it and not even known what it was from. People have referenced it. I mean, I've seen GIFs of it. It's been done. But you see them just dancing, and they get pulled over by a cop. Happens to be played by Jennifer Coolidge. And I just wanted to say, like, I had no idea that her voice wasn't actually like that.
Oh, yeah.
Because when she talked in this movie, I was like, who the fuck is this? And I looked it up. I hate to say this. I looked it up to see if she was in some kind of accident that caused her voice.
Oh, my. No, what happened was, I think right after this, you know, Legally Blonde came out in, like, 2001. And she started to have a little bit of it.
She did it as a character in Legally Blonde, then just kept it because she got famous.
Yeah, because... I actually just watched that movie the other day, and you can hear, but it becomes even more pronounced in when she is the evil stepmother in A Cinderella Story with Hilary Duff, because she is supposed to be so rude and all of that, and I don't think she had ever played a rude character before, and basically she didn't care that her husband had died. It doesn't matter.
Does she sound like that as Stifler's mom?
No. I feel like she tried to sound sexier. Actually, I don't remember.
I don't know. Talking a lot about Jennifer Coolidge for a character who's in this movie for 5 seconds.
She deserves it.
She's a cop. She pulls them over, and you kind of just see how fucking dumb they are. The cop pulls them over, and Doug is like, "You think she pulls over anyone? She wants your number." Man. Yeah, and then he gets the ticket from her, and he's like, "All right, like, I got a date with her at the court." Anyway, they are going club hopping, and they end up at this club, the Roxbury, and they try and get in. They're turned away. They're actually, I think, turned away a couple times, but Michael Clark Duncan, he's the bouncer, of course. Rest in peace to him.
Yes.
I mean, I was surprised.
Such a good actor, man.
Yeah. I mean, he's most notably from The Green Mile, and, like, that's
such a sad movie.
Yeah, that's what I always think of him from, but, like, I like seeing actors that you know as, like, big stars in these smaller parts.
You know, I'm kind of surprised that you mentioned The Green Mile is what you remember him from and not Kingpin and Ben Affleck's Daredevil.
We don't talk about that.
Oh, okay. We don't talk about Bruno. No.
Oh, you know what actually was one of my favorite roles from him?
Huh?
He was Groot in the Ultimate Spider-Man TV show.
Oh. Are you going to keep going with that, or?
That show had a lot of people in it, actually. Also, Donald Glover, who voiced Miles Morales in that show.
Uh-huh.
Donald Glover, of course, you may know, starred in the TV show Community, which featured him wearing Spider-Man pajamas.
Oh, my
And
gosh.
the comic book writer Brian Michael Bendis described that scene of Donald Glover in the Spider-Man pajamas as one of the major inspirations for the creation of the character Miles Morales. Additionally, Donald Glover appeared as the uncle of Miles Morales, Aaron Davis, in Spider-Man Homecoming and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. So, as you can see, Miles Morales and Donald Glover have been pretty heavily connected.
Boy, have we all missed that. Boy, howdy.
Anyway, because they get turned away from the club, they're in line, and they're fucking dumb in line, too. Like, some girls get in line behind them. They're like, you want to dance? The girls are like, well, we're not in the club yet. And they're like, oh, yeah, when we get in there.
Yeah.
And then you see them talking to several girls throughout the night as they're moving through the line, and they're telling...
do you know who the Mighty Duckman is? It's Emilio Estevez.
Yeah. Wow. Yes, they're telling the story about Emilio Estevez that apparently they met him, and it's just nobody is interested in the story.
The worst part is they were like the Mighty Duckman, like adults would know that. That was definitely a kid's movie. I remember watching that as a kid, but if I'm telling you, if I was their age and trying to club hop, I would have never seen that movie unless I had children.
Well, this story comes up several times throughout the movie.
It does.
But by the time they get to the front of the club's closed. They go home because they weren't able to get into the club, and you just see their home life. They live in, like, the same room in a fucking mansion. They could live in their own rooms, but they're, like, best friends, brothers, and...
Sounds like another movie Will Ferrell was in.
I will say...
If anybody...
This movie walked so Step Brothers could run.
It definitely did. It did. It's like Step Brothers, compared to this, would be the X-rated version. But
yes. But yeah, so...
Such a good movie.
You see their home life that they don't do shit. They have rich parents, and they live at home, and they're fucking dumb at home, too.
I like how they mention, like, Mom got a new chin. People are going to come over and celebrate it.
Yeah, he even says it later, the Sandersons are here to see your mom's new chin.
Yeah.
So Doug and Steve work at their father's flower shop, and he sells fake flowers, and their father, just calls them idiots all the time, specifically Doug. Yeah. Doug is definitely not interested in working at the flower shop. I mean, even when he is running the cash register, he seems to constantly be calling this credit check woman that he knows specifically, like her agent number. He asks for her specifically. He calls her credit vixen. And I actually kind of like that through line of him calling this same woman and her kind of like flirting back with him. But anyway.
I'll give you my own piece of trivia. She was also in Legally Blonde.
Is that your little piece of trivia you brought today?
Yes, it is. Just so you know, her and Jennifer Coolidge are cool with one another. Actually, I don't know that, but they are both in Legally Blonde as well.
I guess I should just throw my other trivia out here now because I don't know where to put it because I don't know who she is. Will Ferrell's current wife is in this movie. She's listed as Porsche Girl. I have no idea where she is in the movie. I watched the movie twice. I then skipped around and tried to find her. I have no idea where she is. Anyway, he met her and married her, and this is the only movie that they've ever been in together.
I thought she was one of the club girls.
It's not her. That character's name is Vivica, so I thought that it was his wife. It doesn't matter. I looked...
The fact that they only give them names such as Porsche Girl, Hot Girl, Porsche Girl, Hottie Cop, Roxbury Club Girl, Credit Vixen... Saturday Night Fever girl, like no girl ever gets a name. I could see why we probably couldn't find her.
So, you come to find out that next door to the flower shop is a lamp shop owned by the Sandersons. Now, the goal is to have Emily Sanderson marry Steve Butabi so that they can combine the plant and lamp shop and have the world's first plant and lamp shop.
Or lamp and plant store.
Yes. Steve's father keeps pushing him towards Emily, and Emily is just weirdly slutty the entire movie. Every word she says in the beginning when she's trying to attract Steve is just about how much of a slut she is. And
she's really good at everything.
Yeah.
Molly Shannon does a good job with her, though.
She does. Molly Shannon is a fantastic actress for these kinds of roles.
Superstar.
That was after this, soon after.
Yeah, it was born.
It was born from this.
It was born from this.
Well, Doug and Steve, or Steve specifically, you know, he's not interested in Emily, but Doug is an asshole about it and is always like, why are you talking to him? Like, leave him alone. We're busy. We have stuff to do. And all they care about is opening a club. Like, that's their dream. Meanwhile, their father wants them to do this whole store thing.
It kind of seems like Steve also wants to make his dad happy and is kind of the man in the middle in all of this. And Doug is pushing more for the club and he's like, yeah, that's my brother. But then the dad wants him to do this and he's like, but we gotta help Dad.
They stop by the gym, which I'm only mentioning because the character comes up again. They have a gym trainer named Craig. Anyway, he'll come back. He's like their one and only other friend.
He's underwear, man.
Yeah, that guy from
White Chicks.
So Doug and Steve that night are like, we're going to get into the Roxbury tonight. The only reason we are not getting in is because we're letting them not let us in. They get all ready to go. They try and get in, and again, they're unable to. But the night before, they saw Richard Grieco, and he was able to get in, and they try and bribe the Roxbury bouncer because they see a guy do it, and they give him like $8 in change.
I mean, hey.
Like, they put out a 5 and then are like, how about also my friend Washington? And his brother Washington. And it was fucking great comedy the way that Michael Clark Duncan takes it. He flips his thing and just smacks it like he's getting all the money off.
Because they also had coins up there too. He just throws their money straight on the ground.
Yeah. So
I could have bought him a drink.
I know. They go looking for an ATM, and so they're starting and stopping as they're stopping in front of stores, see if there's an ATM, which I don't believe in 1998 they couldn't find an ATM on every fucking corner. He's like,
there's one, stop. There's one, stop. There's one, stop.
Yeah. As a result of this, Richard Grieco happens to be behind them and he crashes into the back of them. He's concerned that they're going to call the cops because they get out of the car and they start doing their dance, and he's like, oh look, they're starting with the neck injuries, and he has an illegal car. And so he gets out of the car and tries to talk to them, and he's like, well, what do you guys want to do? And they're too dumb to understand what just happened. So they're like, oh, we're just trying to go to the Roxbury. And he's like, guys, I can get you into the Roxbury. In Richard Grieco's head, you know, he's like bribing them to not sue him.
He's like, I just don't want to be sued. That's what he says the whole movie. I just don't want to be sued.
And so Richard Grieco gets them into the Roxbury for the first time. That's pretty funny. They like walk into the coat room and they're like, this is the nicest place I've ever been in. And he's like, guys, this is the coat room if you just keep coming. Anyway, they meet Mr. Zadir, who is the owner of the Roxbury, through Richard Grieco.
Did you just grab my ass?
Yes, he does this joke the whole time where he just keeps asking people if they grabbed his ass. And of all the dumb jokes in this, that was my favorite and I think the funniest. He just keeps going, did you just grab my ass?
Yeah.
And people will be like, no. And he's like, I'm watching you.
Yeah.
Or, I know your games.
Yeah.
And like, they don't know what to say. He says it to Doug. He's like, do you want to grab my ass? And Doug's like, no. Should I? Doug and Steve are trying to talk to Mr. Zadir about opening a club because this is their dream. This is a guy that owns clubs. This is like their ticket in. But Mr. Zadir doesn't want to talk business right now, but they have a party with them. Like, he parties with them all night long at the Roxbury. I
think we need to mention that they meet 2 girls there, too.
Yes, Vivica and Canby. You can see these are girls, based on their lines, they just kind of look for rich dudes like this. Mm-hmm. And because they see Steve and Doug with Mr. Zadir, they believe that they're big shots.
Yes.
So they start dancing with them and...
just get knocked around.
Yeah, Doug and Steve are, like, assaulting dancers. People.
Yes, they do assault people.
Are just thrusting into people, knocking them around. They eventually, like, I guess, vibe together because you see them all doing the head bob dance and they're like doing a whole dance routine. Anyway, the next morning they are talking about meeting with Mr. Zadir, having a game plan. They go through what they're going to tell him about the club and they go to try
I think my favorite part of that scene though is when they check their calendars and Steve's is still in its plastic wrap, so he has to check to make sure he's quote unquote free and there's nothing on his calendar, but they bought it because they're going to be businessmen now.
Yes, yeah. He opens it up and he's like, yeah, I'm free.
Yeah.
They go to Mrs. Zadir's business and they get turned away by the security guard, and it's because...
And their chauffeur. It's Mr. Zadir's chauffeur.
Yeah, the night before they actually shit-talked him because they put up, like, the window, you know, between the driver and the back of the limousine, and Mr. Zadir was like, well, he can't hear you. And they say some shit like something about his mom, and Will Ferrell follows it up with, or your dad. And when they meet him the next day, he's like, my mom or my dad, like he heard them. But anyway, he kicks them out of there, and
it's also because they made him go run out all night to get whipped cream, because Steve and Doug gave them the idea to get high off of whipped cream bottles. Like, you just let the nitrous out, without getting the cream, and it was a huge hit, Mr. Zedier's
It sounds
party.
like they didn't even know what they were doing. They just thought it was cool.
They were just like, it feels so good.
And the other people were like, whippets, and they're like, yeah. Mr. Zedier is actually wanting to talk to them. And
because he liked their ideas.
Yeah, you find that out after the security guard goes back in there and tells him, like, oh, there was just disturbance in the lobby. And he's like, did you find those boys? And he's like, I'm still looking. But that security guard's an asshole. They don't know that, so they are feeling pretty fucking broken up about it. They end up calling the girls, Vivica and Canby. And Vivica and Canby find out that they ain't shit because they pull up in their fucking dad's flower shop van, because their cars got taken earlier in the movie by their dad because their dad wanted them to focus and not be doing the club shit. And they break up with them. And
because they're poor, or they're not rich.
Yeah, those girls were not great. Yeah. But, they're not great. And then they kind of have a falling out. They're screaming at each other. Fucking Doug's like, you know what? I lied. You're not good looking to Steve.
It's like a rom-com, but the brothers break up.
Yes.
And Steve starts dating Emily. And, they get together and they start planning their future. And she has sex with him, and Doug is out partying by himself every night.
And it's super awkward.
Disheveled.
He's like at that biker bar that it shows them go to previously. He's trying to dance with people, getting thrown around. And I laugh because one of the dudes, like, he gets in his face and he goes to back up, and the dude pulls him in and starts dancing with him.
Yeah, it's good.
But yeah, Doug is just completely lost, and Steve is with Emily, but you can see he doesn't want to be with Emily. It ends up being that they're going to get married because they're, like, in bed, and he says something about moving fast, and she takes it as they're getting married. And he tries to say to his dad, do we still have to go through with this? And his dad's response to that is like, well, I already paid the caterer. And then he's telling him, like, every man is nervous the night before their wedding. And Steve, I wrote down the line, like, word for word, because how funny I thought it was. Steve's like, you mean all guys are nervous and anxious and kind of hope she eats a can of botulism? Or maybe she can hang out with a deer and a hunter accidentally shoots her. Or, when she's sleeping and she makes that nose whistle sound and you shake her to make her be quiet. But what you'd really like to do is take her stupid little red toothbrush and ram it up her nostril into her skull. And the father's looking at him the whole time, and then he just goes, perfectly normal feelings.
Yeah.
Like, there's lines like that are pretty fucking great.
That was good. And then, at the wedding, Richard Grieco's in the wedding, and they're like, Richard Grieco, he's like, I just don't want to be sued.
I just don't want to be sued.
Yeah, but it turns out that Doug comes out at the wedding, and he's holding up.
Yeah, he's doing the...
Yes, from the 80s movie with...
Fuck, I can't think of any of the information. I can't think of the actor or the movie. He's holding the boombox above his head, playing the song. John Cusack, yeah.
Cusack, it's him, but I don't remember the name of the movie.
Me neither. But anyway, he ends up calling off the wedding, which, actually, I want to say that when they're about to get married and the preacher is reading some shit off, he asks Steve about, like, do you take this woman? He goes, well, my dad already paid for the caterers.
Yeah, and they're like, okay.
He's like, all right.
So good. Yeah.
Anyway, his best man there is Craig from the gym, and Craig takes his spot and just marries Emily there.
Because he's always been in love with her, and he wants to have his own protein bar, and she's like, sounds good.
Yeah, she just seems to be about money as well.
Yeah, she ended up being like an evil witch.
Yeah, she was not good.
No, she wasn't. I thought my favorite part of her was when she was talking about the he's like, we can get furniture, and she gets on top of him and has sex with him and gets off to IKEA. And then just gets off of him, and he was like, he didn't get nothing out of that.
Gross.
Yeah, it was gross.
After the wedding scene's over, and Doug and Steve are back on the town, they actually find a new club, and it's their idea, where it's, they mentioned it earlier, but basically the outside of the club looks like the inside, and the inside is like a street theme. Like, it looks like it's on a New York street. So
people on the outside of the club who are waiting to get in can still have a good time. And then the people on the inside, it's like edgy.
Yes. And so they go up to the bouncer, and the bouncer's like, your name's got to be on the list. And this is this typical thing for them. They don't expect to be on the list, but they say their name. And the guy looks and lets them right in. It turns out Mr. Zedier opened this club with their ideas and has had their name on there just waiting for them. And he's like, I'm going to split this with you. Like, this is your club. And,
they become owners.
Yeah. And
so Mr. Zadir didn't turn out to be a bad person. And then they're, owners and they're signing off on things. And then they end up meeting the credit vixen is her name. I'm sorry. But the credit card girl, Doug meets her and, they talk about how cute she is. And she's like, you have to see my friend. And it ends up being Jennifer Coolidge, the cop.
Yes.
And so Jennifer Coolidge and Steve get together.
And they go out there and dance on the floor. And
they seem to know their dance and vibe with their head bobbing, their weird shakes, their gyrating, all of it.
So the last thing I have here, and this is all alleged, and some of the information I have here is not complete because I didn't get to dive into it too much. But Chris Kattan semi-recently, did a autobiography, and apparently Will Ferrell did not speak to him after this movie until the 23rd season of Saturday Night Live. Apparently this is because he had some sort of relationship with Amy Heckerling, who was a producer and director on this. Now, from what I was reading from Chris Kattan's way he tells it, and again, all alleged, nobody fucking sue me. I'm just talking about what I read. I have no idea. Allegedly, this woman, Amy Heckerling, was set to direct this movie and was driving somewhere with Chris Kattan and Will Ferrell, dropped Will Ferrell off, and then said to Chris Kattan, in his book, he says, she was like, so are we gonna have sex or not? And he was like, I don't know. I can't believe you just said that. And the next day, Lorne Michaels calls him saying, what are you doing? Like, you need to keep her happy. I'm not saying you have to have sex with her. I mean, but it couldn't hurt. And he didn't say he had sex with her, but he was dating someone at the time, and he ended up breaking up with the girlfriend he was dating because he felt weird about this. And then he didn't want to be involved with her, and then she decided not to be a director and just be a producer on the movie. And this, I guess, upset Will Ferrell because of the way he handled it. And so then they just didn't talk. And when he did eventually talk to him, he said, so I got all your messages, but I didn't call you back because I didn't want to talk to you. They had been friends since before SNL. They both were in this improv group together called The Groundlings. It's had a lot of SNL
So you're saying that Will Ferrell reached out to Chris Kattan? And Chris Kattan was like, I got your messages, but I don't want to talk to you.
No, Will Ferrell said to Chris Kattan, I don't want to talk to you because of the way that he felt Chris Kattan handled it. And again, this is all alleged. But after reading that, I was just like, oh my God, what a fucking disgusting mess. For some dumb skit that did not need to be a movie.
Yeah.
All in all, I rated it a 2.5. I think it had some real funny scenes in it.
You were laughing up a storm.
I don't think that it was worth being a movie.
I gave it a 2. I mean, I feel like that's pretty generous to still give it a 2 out of 5. For the same reason, I didn't feel like it was that funny. I didn't feel like it was that good. I was like, this is the movie that made Will Ferrell famous.
It could have just been an SNL skit.
Yeah.
Which it
could have. Yeah. I mean, I realize, I guess he was already famous from SNL, but you know what I mean. He went on to make tons and tons of movies, good or bad.
Yeah, and I am kind of surprised that Chris Kattan didn't go in the same direction after this.
Well, here's the thing. We're only hearing Chris Kattan's side of whatever story this is. There could be something deeper to that. He could have been blacklisted. If the story he's saying is true, he could have been blacklisted for not sleeping with that woman. But if it's not true, he, could have been blacklisted for other reasons as well. And maybe that's why Will Ferrell didn't want to talk to him. I mean, nobody will ever know. It doesn't matter, but...
I don't know. I just, don't try and sleep with people you work with, and don't ruin your friendships over stuff like that either.
I mean, they can sleep with someone they work with if it's consensual. Didn't seem like that was a consensual case.
In an interview shown on TMZ, Chris Kattan said, so many people do talk to me and ask me about it. Is there going to be a night at the Roxbury too? I think it'd be fun, I think we'd see where we are at this point. He's probably married to Molly Shannon's character, and I'm probably, I don't know, in prison.
Why would he be married?
My character is, and I'm trying to get out. I'm trying to get the club life back together. Clubs are obviously different now than they were then. Maybe we're older, and we're trying to be amongst the younger ones, and there might be a third Roxbury guy, maybe a long-lost brother. Who knows? I think that might be fun. That's an idea. Now, when I saw this interview, it kind of looked like they just approached him in the middle of New York. Mm-hmm. And when he said all those things, I was like, this fool don't remember how that movie ended. Mm-hmm. He just starts saying things. I'm like, good for you for trying to give them an answer. But...
just say, no, I don't want to do a sequel.
Well, maybe he does. But Will Ferrell... I couldn't find a source on it, so I didn't put it, but apparently Will Ferrell was like, no.
All right. Will Ferrell, in his defense, he doesn't really do sequels.
Not yet. That's also what Adam Sandler did.
Because there was Daddy's Home, and he did Daddy's Home too, didn't he?
He sure did. Boy, did he.
But, I mean, Adam Sandler's only had Grown Ups and Grown Ups 2.
Not
and
for
now
long.
he's going to have... Happy Gilmore.
That's going to be the start.
I feel like the Happy Gilmore one was because the other guy, Shooter McGavin, wanted it. Remember they made that video, the Twitter exchange, and it was super cute.
I think everybody just needs to get old enough, and then they're like, fuck, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not going to write anything new. I'll just do a sequel.
My fingers hurt.
But, before he does this, there's 17 other movies I think he would make a sequel to first.
My fingers hurt. It's about time for him to do another rom-com with Drew Barrymore. They do one like every 10 years.
I'm talking about Will Ferrell. You're still on about him, Sandler.
Oh, well, I was just saying.
Anyway, what's your sequel?
Night at the Roxbury 2. Electric Boogaloo. Get it? Because
I said my Miles Morales joke?
No, because it's a club and they're dancing. Electric Boogaloo.
Yes.
Just kidding, it's not. It's called Night at the Roxbury, and I think it should be remade or rebooted, whatever. I'm going to tell you. I want different characters and changes to be made to the plot.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's a reboot or a remake. I think the brothers should be Timothée Chalamet and Tom Holland.
You think they've got the comedy chops for this?
I'm going a more serious comedic route, not a dumb comedic route, if that makes sense. Okay. But it would be kind of fun to see him play, like, a little bit more dumb people. Anyways.
They can do it.
I do think they should be less dumb than Doug and Steve.
Okay. Like, what level of dumb? If you had to compare them
like,
to a
they're
dumb
graduating, they've graduated college.
Like Billy Madison dumb?
No.
That's too dumb?
Yeah, too dumb. Listen, let me tell you the change. What you just said is the most insanely idiotic thing I have ever heard. At no point during your rambling, incoherent response did you even say anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
All right.
A simple no.
Just keep going.
Anyways, changes to the plot. I think they should be less dumb than they are in the movie. Yes. I've said that like 5 times. I think that they should still be working for their rich father, but they've graduated college and they are trying to make their dad happy by working at his law office, and he expects them to apply to law school. So I guess they'd kind of have to be smart enough to at least get a passing score on the law school exam, but dad could make a phone call and get him right in.
So Big Daddy dumb.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, but she's kind of smart in that. Maybe like a little dumber than Big Daddy. Well, because
he could have been a lawyer in Big Daddy. He ends up being a lawyer at the end.
Exactly. So, I think they should still have coordinated dances. I don't think they should be as wild.
What about the neck thing? That's classic.
The neck thing is totally fine, but whatever the gyrating is, like jumping people, I'm not about it.
Could update it. Have them doing the Dougie.
Yeah, or something. Yeah.
Maybe
swinging the umbrella from the lip sync. You know what I'm talking about? It doesn't matter. Updated dances other than the head bob. Okay, great. I imagine in my mind something like the white chicks dance off at the club.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
And I think that they have girlfriends that have dumped them for men that are more successful. So they don't meet no girls at the club, nothing like that. They just get dumped. And they don't like working for their father. He's pressuring them to go to law school. I think that they should still get in a car accident because they can't get into the super popular club. Like, I think that should still be part of it.
With Johnny Depp this time?
Could be. I put Robert Downey Jr. or, like,
Johnny Depp's a bit problematic. Maybe not use him.
Yeah, I was thinking somebody... Because I feel like Robert Downey Jr. could play that. I just don't want to get sued.
Yeah.
But it'd be funny if he played somebody that was on drugs.
I don't know if that'd be funny for him. Hey, remember how horrible your fucking life was? Let's see you do that.
Yeah, anyways, it doesn't matter. And in order to repay them, he gets them into the club specifically to pitch the owner. Which they try and do, they party all night, whatever. Maybe instead of nitrous, take some ecstasy.
A modern drug.
Yeah, something like that. And then instead of the wedding, they just get in a, I think they still have to have their riff and their fight, but somehow something brings them back together, and instead of one of them getting married because their dad's pressuring them, they talk each other out and they're not going to apply to law school, stop studying for the entrance exams, and then, get their club. Wada ha da ha. But those are the plot changes I would make.
Okay. I could see maybe it being done in a funnier way. Maybe move away from this SNL skit.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I went a completely different route. I called mine A Night with the Butabi's.
Oh.
Doug and Steve have been on top of the club scene for decades now, with no signs of slowing down. They've kept their club modern and updated while keeping the outside theme. Things are going great until a new club opens up in town right across the street. Club Smile seems to be immediately just as popular as the Butabi's Club and even begins pulling customers away. Steve and Doug first try not to worry and just up the ante at their own club, getting out on the dance floor and dancing their hearts out with their wives. But their old moves just aren't enough as they continue to lose customers. Finally, Doug and Steve decide to go over there and see what the big deal is. Doug and Steve don some disguises so they can go undercover, but they have a hard time getting into the club. They think of the last time they had trouble getting into a club and look for a celebrity. They see a problematic celebrity and rethink their plan. I don't know who you'd want to put in there. Somebody that they'd look at and be like, oh, no, maybe not.
Was that good? Amber Heard.
But before any new ideas come out, they're grabbed by security and brought into the club. Doug and Steve are sat in an office and staring at the back of a chair as the owner of Club Smile slowly turns around and reveals themselves. Played by Jim Carrey, the owner, Chris, seems glad to see them as if they were old friends. Doug and Steve don't know who he is and ask, which deeply upsets Chris as he tells them about when they met. Years ago, on that fateful night at the Roxbury, Chris was there with the boys the entire night. Through a flashback showing Jim Carrey poorly green-screened every scene from the first movie. I just imagine it being done purposefully bad. Like, you just see him in the back dancing and shit.
Yeah.
Anyway... You see he's telling the truth. But once Doug and Steve got their own club, Chris came to see them, excited to celebrate with them, but he can never get in. Time and time again, we see he was turned away or got there too late. Chris has been seething with revenge for years, biding his time and using all their old moves to start a new hot club. Doug and Steve look around and notice the club is 90s themed and everyone is dressed as they used to. Doug and Steve are shocked and tell Chris how uncool this is, but they can't even remember him, so Chris throws them out of the club. Doug and Steve try and sabotage Club Smile, but nothing seems to be working, and finally they decide they don't need to hurt Chris. They're great at clubbing, and they just need to return to their roots and visit the Roxbury for inspiration and come back stronger than ever with a brand new theme. So the new theme for their club, instead of outside, is underside, a sewer-themed club. As their club thrives again, Chris comes by to apologize and propose a merger. Because Doug and Steve are who they are, they agree, and the film ends with a mega club ran by the three, and we see them hit the dance floor together.
I think there should be some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle art on the wall of the club, the sewer club, and they only serve pizza.
I just wanted to bring Jim Carrey back since he was in the original sketch, and why the fuck wasn't he in the movie?
Hell yeah. That's good. It was good.
Well, it'll never happen, because apparently they fucking hate each other. Anyway... Thank you so much for listening. We do so appreciate it. If you want to talk movies with us, you can find us on TikTok, Instagram, Letterboxd, Threads, and Twitter. We are NansPod everywhere. If you'd like to vote on whose sequel idea was the best, come by our YouTube channel for the polls, or let us know your idea across our socials with a comment, tweet, or you can reach us at needlesssequel@gmail.com. Links, as always, will be wherever you are listening. And if you wouldn't mind, share a show with someone, leave us a review, and come back for more. We would love to have you and hear what we can do to improve. All right, take care of yourselves. We will see you next week. Did you just grab my ass?
Did you grab mine? Bye!